inside the off stump. Oh, he's caught it! I don't believe it! Tom Kohler-Cadmore has caught the most magnificent catch. That short third man is the end of Daniel Sams, and Somerset have won the Vitality Blast 2023. They bowled Essex out for 131.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd, and joining me this evening, I've got a lifelong Somerset fan, now exiled up north, Steve Tancock. Steve, good to have you back. How are you, mate? Wintering well?
Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Very good. Wintered well.
Good. And also joining us tonight is the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset for another year at least, providing you don't want to hear the One Day Cup group stages. Anthony Gibson.
Well, we don't actually know that yet, Sheps. We still haven't had confirmation from the BBC that we're going to be doing county championship cricket commentary. It's been reported in the Cricketer magazine that we are going to be, but from the BBC, nothing.
If Mr. Doble says it, that I'm gonna take it as gospel. So are we still in limbo then, Gibbo? Is it not officially rubber stamped yet?
It's not officially rubber stamped yet, but we live in hope.
Oh, indeed. Well, as ever, they're cutting it fine. I've written down a bit of an agenda tonight. It's taken me pretty much a full page of A4, with all that's been going on since we last recorded. Pick a topic. Should we start with the most recent? Roelof van der Merwe is now no longer a Somerset player. Breaks my heart. Oh, Gibbo's coming back in. I
think the business is to get the pavilion renamed now. Sad to say, but I think it's got to be done.
This pavilion will not be renamed. I can assure you. Just because somebody's no longer a player at the club. I mean, Colin Atkinson, Andy Caddick and Marcus Skothic are no longer players. Neither is Harold Gimlet or James Hildreth, and their naming rights remain unaffected. This will forever be the Roelof van der Merwe Pavilion, and it just saddens me that I never actually got the nameplate made while he was still an active Somerset player. Not entirely unexpected news. He has relocated back to South Africa with his young family, and was jetting back for the group stages and the knockout stages of the Blast. Of course, just on a white ball contract. He did have a year left to run on it. That was this year, but sadly, 'twas not to be. I just hope that the club can get him and the family over to give him a proper send-off, like they did with so many players over the years. I mean, you all know how much I love Roelof. I just think he's just such a passionate player, an incredible cricketer, and always there to produce a moment of magic or a knock that the likes of Sir Viv or Beefy could only dream of playing to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Everybody knows about the 165 against Surrey. Everybody knows that Liam Livingstone caught and bowled. That catch against, the innings against Gloucester in that rain-affected T20 a couple of years ago. Should we go a bit outside the box now? Any other moments of Roelof van der Merwe magic that we can think of? While you think of, I'm gonna go for one which you may or may not remember, but it just kind of sums up the type of player that he was. It was 2021 against Hampshire, county championship game, first game back at the Cooper Associates County Ground after COVID rules had been restricted. We still had all the alternate seating and sanitize your hands and all this, and I think we were about 50 for 5 or something, and Roelof and Lewis Gregory were rebuilding, and Roelof was going really well. He nailed on for 100, and then he just bunted one straight to cover and ran himself out by about 5 or 6 yards, because he could do some pretty daft things as well. Occasionally do the odd daft thing, but general brilliance from Roelof.
I always remember him in the field when the ball went up in the air, and I looked to see who the fielder underneath it was, and it was Roelof van der Merwe. I knew 100% he was taking catch.
Gibbo, can I just stop you there? I think you've got whatever device you connected with to start with is still on, so there's a bit of an echo.
All right.
I think you're on your laptop now. If you disconnect from whatever you were on before,
I will.
then we should lose the echo. Yeah, I mean, he was nicknamed the Bulldog. I said on the radio with Charlie Taylor on whenever it was. They picked the right person to interview about Roelof van der Merwe leaving. #1 fan. They call him the Bulldog, but he was like a greyhound in the field. Remember that catch he took over his head against South Africa in the Champions Trophy a couple of years ago? Just an incredible fielder, Steve. The Bulldog will be missed.
Mine is way back, Tunbridge Wells, I think 2011, but I might be a year out.
Yeah.
Where we rolled Kent, not cheaply, but not expensively, and he bowled very well. But he was batting 3 at that time, and I haven't looked this up, so my recollection is slightly vague. But we lost an early wicket, and then he and Trez just absolutely obliterated the Kent bowling, and that for me was, he announced what a huge value. You look back on teams and you look at when, he's one for us. I like him. I'm a big fan, and I've always been a fan. I've always deferred in terms of hiding my light to you, Sheps, but he's going to be massively missed, because you felt he always gave 100%, and that's a bit of a damn. I'm not trying to damn others, but you always felt you got every ounce of what he had. Somebody who probably made more out of his natural ability by sheer willpower, guts, and determination. Loved him. Going to miss him. Thank you, Roelof. And as you say, Shep, I really hope the club, I'm sure they will, because they're very good at doing these things, gets him and his family back at some point.
And I just want to give him a big hug and tell him I'm going to miss him.
He's welling up, guys, girls. He's welling up.
Tears in my eyes. Of course, a player like Roelof does leave a massive hole in the squad for the Vitality Blast. Not only, obviously, bowling, handy lower order runs, which can win you a game on occasion, and of course his dynamism in the field. I expect the first cab off the rank is Lewis Goldsworthy, following his not I was going to say not bad, pretty decent performances for Leicestershire in the last year when he was on loan. The other spinners in the squad, obviously Leach, Bashir and Vaughan, and Josh Thomas as well, don't forget. So is it a straight like for like almost with Goldsworthy, or are we thinking a bit more left field?
I don't know. I mean, Lewis Goldsworthy's done well in T20 with the ball more than with the bat. I mean, and slow left arm's a useful weapon to have. So I agree. I think he'd be the obvious one. But Josh Thomas is I think he's a good bowler. He's a good batsman as well. I think he'll make his mark in Somerset cricket over the years ahead. I think it's too early for Archie Vaughan in T20. I'd like to see him, learn his trade mainly in red ball cricket and in the One Day Cup, rather than trying to turn him into a slogger or a defensive T20 bowler. So
he's put himself into the auction for that other competition, though, hasn't he?
Know, I think that's more in hope than expectation.
I know, but I'm just thinking that's clearly where his aspirations. He sees himself as playing in that format. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So therefore,
look at the money they're offering, they're bound to want to play in it.
I'll tell you what worried me as well is the club put out, as they do, videos of the players training over the winter, and it was, Archie Vaughan getting ready for the season, and he was there stepping about 3 foot outside his off stump and slogging it over mid wicket, and I thought, I'd quite happily watch an hour of him leaving rather than 2 seconds of him playing that shot, because I don't think he's going to be doing that on a damp one against Worcestershire in 25 days' time, as it stands. So I agree. Lewis Goldsworthy, straightforward to replace. Just going on to what you're saying about the other competition, the only Somerset player who's not retained, or Somerset men's player who is neither retained or in the auction, is Andy Mead.
Mead, yeah. Which I'm a bit surprised about that because he can hit a long ball.
He can.
Andy Mead. You know, I mean, in the One Day Cup season before last, and to some extent last season, I mean, he was an absolute star. He hit one of the biggest sixes I've ever seen up at Wantage Road. It was still going up when it went over the pavilion. Terrifically hard hitting. And I don't know. I would have thought he was a better bet for the 100 than Archie Vaughan, for example, or Lewis Goldsworthy for that matter.
Because he's not in. Somebody could take a punt on him. Because our T20 team is a very difficult team to get into. As you say, he does hit a long ball. Somebody might have taken a punt on him, but as it stands, we don't know the reasons. But he will be available for the One Day Cup, 100%.
Do you think he's seriously wants to have a crack at red ball cricket this year, and that's his focus, and that might be the reason?
Do you know what I think he does? If you look at his because if you didn't know, Andy Mead is massive on social media. Every day he's putting up Instagram stories about what he's been through and how he's training. And I think the big thing, he always looks to be a guy who's improving, and he seems pretty switched on. And I know, what game was it he played? We played two absolutely horrendous shots in a row, and he was out on the second one.
Edgbaston, and Old Trafford.
Old Trafford as well. So for a bloke who presents as switched on as that, it's difficult to think that he's not looked at that and gone, that's probably not a long-term route to red ball success and nailing down that opening partnership. Because it's quite funny, because he takes his time in white ball cricket. You know, very often he'll be maybe, you look at those hundreds, he was probably more often than not 25, 30 not out after the first 10 overs, rather than being, maybe 50 or 60 like a Tom Banton would be if they've been getting after the bowling.
But then he bats through.
And then he bats through, and he's 120, 130, or in the case up at Wantage Road, 170 odd not out. I think it's there for him. And I think it's a good place to be as a player. If you think, well, I've got the game, I've got the shots, I've got the talent, I'm not a daft bloke, there is a spot there for me, and I haven't done what I needed to do to make it mine last season, but I'm sure as hell going to do what I can to make it mine over the winter and during the early part of the season if I'm given the chance.
I think he needs to make up his mind what sort of a batsman he's going to be. I mean, he came to Somerset as a classic blocker. Yeah, exactly. Slowest century in the county championship for Warwickshire against Lancashire and so on. And he's tried to reinvent himself as a hard-hitting opening batsman who'll take the attack to the bowlers, and it hasn't, in all honesty, worked out. It just seems to be conflicted at the moment between these, the split personality, batting personality of Andy Mead. And I just think he needs to decide what sort of batsman he's going to be, and be that predominantly. And then, rather with Tom Banton, you can graft on other skills to that. But I think you need to be a certain sort of batsman. That's your strength. That's your roots. And I don't think he's got that at the moment. He's got the talent, just doesn't seem to have the right mindset at the moment.
I think the way he approaches 50 over cricket is pretty transferable to what would work in red ball cricket.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know what you think about that, Steve. I mean, I don't think he's played a T20 game for us yet. I'm pretty sure that he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
No, I would love to be sitting here in September and saying, well, that sorted out one of the opening spots this season, didn't it? And again, maybe I'm got my maroon and black tinted sunglasses on already this year, but it's the sort of thing that you hear something, you just put two and two together and get seven, don't you? But I just wonder, and I was massively impressed with his 50 over form, and of course you want every Somerset player to succeed every time they play, but he was one of those I was really rooting for when he played in the Championship, and who knows? If you want to think, you said a bit earlier about thinking outside the box, replacing Roelof. Not perhaps thinking outside the box to such an extent to give him an extended run at the top of the order. But then we throw in the Will Smeed equation now, don't we?
We do. As was exclusively revealed via your conversation with Jamie Cox that you had was it a Cricket Society get together. It was rumoured that Will Smeed was looking to play more red ball cricket. He did have a couple of run-outs for the Who's at the back end of last season, and it's been announced that he has now adapted or modified his contract, whatever way you want to call it, to be an all-formats player, which will obviously be a 2-formats player because he'll be off in the other competition instead of playing in the One Day Cup.
Yeah, but they might reschedule the One Day Cup for the early part of the season in 2026. So the fact that he is available for all, I think it's tremendous news. I've always been a fan of Will Smeed. He was one of the people who coached him when he was a youngster. Said he's one of the most talented youngsters they've ever coached. And I think his early red ball form was just a little bit of an aberration. And I'm sure if he does what Tom Banton has done and goes back to basics and concentrates on a good, solid, sound defence and builds on that, he can play county championship cricket for Somerset and maybe even open the batting, which is, why it would be a bit Bazballish, I know. And perhaps a bit premature, but he's got the talent to do it. And wouldn't it be wonderful to see Will Smeed and Archie Vaughan opening the batting for Somerset? So
we had Andy Smeed in about 2 minutes ago, and now we've dropped him, and he hasn't put a foot wrong.
No, I don't think Anthony was all as in on it as I was with me. To be fair,
yeah. I remain to be convinced about Andy Smeed. He's a lovely, lovely, lovely bloke and a talented batsman. But I honestly think that of the two of them, Will Smeed is the more talented. To use the England expression, his ceiling is much higher than Andy Smeed.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, I mean, my first thought is it's obviously good news. And my second thought on it was it actually takes 2 to sign a contract. So, obviously, Will Smeed has approached the club and gone, can I play red ball cricket, please? And the club obviously see that there is a route for him into championship cricket, which I think is good. So, he's obviously just not going to be sat on the sidelines. He's going to be engaged in squads and given an opportunity. I'm trying to think where, though. As you say, the only spot that's really open is that second opener spot at the moment.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen to TKC yet, do we?
No. That's the other imponderable, isn't it?
Well, I'm not counting TKC in my championship squad. I've got Vaughan blank, Lammonby Abel, Banton, Rue at 6 and Gregory at 7. As it was end of last season. So, not end of last season.
Could be the blank because he did open in a couple of games, but not great results. But...
Well, he's not going to open this. He's not going to be opening against Worcestershire in a few weeks because he'll be on the other side of the world in the old PSL.
Does it clash with the IPL and the PSL?
Yeah, I think they run at more or less the same time. So,
but I'm not clear what whether the ECB has rowed back on its ruling that about players playing in white ball franchises around the world other than the IPL as to whether they're going to be eligible to play county cricket as well. I don't know. There were suggestions that they have rowed back, have they?
I think so.
I haven't seen anything categoric about it. That seemed to be the way things were going. In which case, he'd be available for Somerset after the PSL has finished. And if not, well, he won't be.
Not sure. If you do know, let us know. I thought it was all sorted, but anyway, maybe not. Someone who definitely won't be a part. Well, we say definitely is a part of that first championship side is Ben Green, who's been sent on an extended loan to Leicestershire for the first 7 county championship games, and will make his way back down to Taunton for the start of the Vitality Blast. I like the idea of him getting game time because he's not going to be in the championship side for Somerset. First choice. Couple of injuries, yes, maybe he does come in. I'm sure there's a clause in there to recall him from his loan. It does seem, though, that the loan system is kind of being used as almost a flag of convenience, if you like. There's no real urgency in the Leicestershire setup that they are desperate to parachute in an all-rounder from another county so they can get 11 bodies on the field. You know, a ball hasn't been bowled in anger yet, and you're taking players in on loan. I don't like that.
Well, they're in a bit of a mess, Leicestershire, aren't they?
I know, but they've got 11 fit players they can put on the pitch, and
he was very popular there, and he did well for them, particularly in the Blast for Leicestershire.
No, I'm not disputing the system being used. I'm saying is the system as it stands, where you can. You know, before a ball's even bowled, you can start farming players out on loan to clubs who have 11 plus fit players. Is somebody's at the front door.
And Andy Hurry made the point. You know, it's good for the player because if he wasn't going to Leicestershire, he'd be playing for the seconds or kicking his heels, and you know, be getting county championship experience. He's always been a little bit of a fringe player at Somerset, Ben Green, and it wouldn't surprise me if he moves on. I mean, his place in the Blast side and in the 50 over Cup side, if he doesn't get a gig in the 100, it's him or Casey Aldridge, isn't it? In that sort of number 8, number 9 slot. And I think, you know, I think Ben Green is good enough to play a lot of first-class cricket, and I'm not sure he's going to play a lot of first-class cricket for Somerset if he stays mainly with Somerset. So, you know, good luck to him at Leicestershire. Leicestershire need him more than Somerset do, and it'll be good for him as a cricketer. So, you know,
it will. I mean, you see it in football where Premier League sides send players out alone, but those are players that are, you know, 16, 17, 18, promising young players. You can get a season of first-team football in the Championship or Division 1 or whatever. But, you know, it's a guy who's played a lot of first-class cricket, you know, key player in our Blast team. It just doesn't quite ring, you know, doesn't pass a smell test with me. Let's put it that way. Anyway. Moving on. Good news as well. Miguel Pretorius is making his way back to the Cooper Associates County Ground. Had a bit of a shaky start, playing that awful shot against Cameron Steele and skying one up where Dom Sibley pouched the easiest of catches to cover. Where if we batted for probably another 2 overs, we'd have been back down the M4 on the coach. Instead, we had to deal with a nail-biting run chase from Surrey where almost went tits up. But a good, solid, honest cricketer is how I describe old Miguel. And the rarest of rare things in this modern era will be available for the whole season.
Do we really want to be signing, though, overseas cricketers who are real, honest, hard-working cricketers? Shouldn't we be looking to sign, you know, international players, you know, real stars?
We have signed the best bowler in the world, Gibbo.
Well, so we have, yeah. Matt Henry is absolutely fine.
Well, I haven't signed Jasprit Bumrah as well as Matt Henry.
But yeah, I admire Miguel Pretorius. He is, as you say, a very good, wholehearted, you know, fast medium pace bowler, hard-hitting lower order batsman. But we've got plenty of those in this country. It just seems that, you know, if you're going to have an overseas player, let's have a real star rather than someone like Miguel, who's a good bloke though he is, good cricketer though he is. You know, he could very well be taking a place. Well, he has taken a place away from Ben Green, locally grown, and possibly from Casey Aldridge as well. Two of our own. So I don't know. I mean, I just wonder. Back in the old days, the great days of the 70s, the overseas players that were signed. You look at Somerset with Botham and Garner and Sunil Gavaskar and Martin Crowe, and Miguel Pretorius, with all due respect, it doesn't exactly fall
it's
in
a different world, don't it? Different world.
Well, I know
these
it
days.
is, but I just think if you're going to have an overseas player, he should be a real star. Otherwise, you're using an overseas player, and he's taking a place in the side away from a locally produced player, which and there you are.
He would potentially not play every game, though. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here, Gibbo. He's a known quantity. He's available for the whole season. As you say, hard-working bloke, lovely fella.
Yeah.
He's got to allow us to rotate our bowlers more than we would have done, because the fast bowling stocks are potentially a little bit threadbare. One or two knocks to maybe Craig or whoever, and all of a sudden we're looking a bit, promising bowlers as they are, Alfie Ogborn, JT Langridge, etc., on first team regulars just yet. And we didn't need to sign any batters, so it would have to be a bowler.
Well, we needed to sign a left-handed opening batsman, actually.
Well,
Usman Khawaja.
or Matt Renshaw. I'm a bit conflicted about it, because he's a very useful cricketer, Miguel Pretorius, and he did well for us last year, and I'm sure he'll do well for this year.
I'm not convinced
not
signing
a cricketer. And
he's in the squad. He's on the radar. He's not
he's on
a
the
million
radar,
miles away.
Oh, how I've missed you, Gibbo, over the winter. My sense on this is that I think I can start playing the senior card on this now. And my sense of it is, my gut reaction when I heard the news was good. I was pleased. I liked him last year. I liked what he contributed. I see he has got a decent ceiling. Yes, he's not Jasprit Bumrah or whoever, but it's good for him bowling in the same squad as Matt Henry. That's got to be good for anyone. And I'm going to say it on the first podcast of the year: when you think you've got enough seam bowlers, sign one more.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And I don't think it's going to inhibit Casey, JT, Alfie, any of those at all. I think it's just depth. And, if we're sitting here, God forbid, in 6 weeks' time, and Craig's got a lower back niggle, or Lewis is not fit and able, you can't then expect all three of those youngsters to come in and do a job. And he adds something. It's depth, and you look at, we haven't got the wealth of Surrey, but you look at what they've got in that depth. This gives us something at least. And when I sneakily wrote down we're nowhere near yet, but I was sort of cribbing off the two of you and trying to put a team down for that first game. And when you look at the competition for batting, and we say, isn't it great? You've got Banton, you've got Roe, you've got Smeed potentially, and Archie Vaughan. If you were then to bring in a Khawaja, a Devon Conway, or somebody like that, that's really cramming a lot of very talented young batting. And there comes a time where we've just got to say, let's give them a chance. And Anthony, when we're 14 for 4, yeah, you can quote it back at me on your comms, and
I probably will.
Yeah, I accept that, but I'm in a good place with it.
But it's like Andy Cleve on Twitter. Who's going to open the batting with Archie in the county championship? Would like someone with more experience to do so, rather than chucking Smeed in the deep end. That's quite right. And other people say that we need a left-handed, and don't put Lammonby into open the batting, because he did so much better at number 3 last season, despite the fact he was coming in the first half. Doesn't know if it was more often than not, but it did seem to make a huge difference. to his form. And I just, I was surprised that they didn't re-sign Matt Renshaw. And in all honesty, I take the point about the seam bowling, but you've got to give the young seamers a chance at some stage. You've got to put your trust.
I think they will get their chance. I think Alfie Ogborn has, what do you say, done his apprenticeship, done the hard yards. I think he's now primed to be given a decent run in the side. I just think as well, if you sign Renshaw, you are benching Tom Kohler-Cadmore, Will Smeed, Lewis Goldsworthy, and Andy Umeed, who all at one stage or another have lit up the county ground with their performances, and that's 4 really talented players.
I just think Renshaw and Vaughan to open batting would be a really good combination. Renshaw with his experience, his left-handedness, be able to teach Archie Vaughan a lot. He's a very, he's a clever cricketer, is Matt Renshaw. He's also become very effective in white ball cricket. He had a fantastic season in the Big Bash, and maybe he wasn't available. But if you give me the choice between Matt Renshaw and Miguel Pretorius, I'd have gone for Renshaw.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, Anthony. I think from what I was looking at the Sheffield Shield games, he was batting for Queensland. I'm pretty certain he was, and I wonder whether he sees that as his route into the Aussie side, and then maybe the conversation was he didn't want to open. I know, but I'm just sort of trying to unravel the threads here and understand what it could mean. And maybe he said, if I come, I want to bat 4, and. Well, as you say, we don't want Lammers opening, and anyone who dared to go to Tom Abel and say, would you mind opening for a season? Or, by the way, do it left-handed as well, probably wouldn't got a very good hearing. So,
okay. How about Tom Banton version 2?
No, I don't know. What, you mean Banton opening?
Yeah.
No.
I want to stick him. I want to keep him
in the order. 2021,
no.
I think, when he wasn't ready.
He's still a work in progress against the Red Bull.
No, again, ain't broke. Don't fix it. For the same reason we said keep Lamb B at 3, we keep Banton at 5. Yeah. If you're going to go for a left-handed opener, you know who I'm going to say.
I know exactly who you're going to say.
There's the curveball.
Jack Leach.
No, Roe. James Roe.
Oh right. Oh, so you've got a double curveball.
There is. Well, up from midsummer onwards, when Thomas Roe becomes available after he's done his A-levels, you could give Thomas Roe the gloves and indeed move James Roe up to open the batting. This is something that I've been talking about quite frequently recently. And that is a, beguiling prospect, because James Roe is a decent wicketkeeper, but he's not particularly good against spin. He dropped a couple of catches to Jack Leach towards the end of the season, and I think he's a England of we've got loads and loads of wicketkeeper batsmen. What we need are really top quality batsmen, and I think James Roe his cricketing career might blossom more if he turns himself into a specialist batsman rather than being a wicketkeeper first and foremost, and a batsman a little bit subsequently. So just a thought.
I feel like we talked about this before. I think the subject of the spare opening spot may have cropped up once or twice in our 100 and odd episodes.
Well, we do need a left-handed opening batsman. James Roe,
do they?
It might settle his technique down as well, so he, goes back to batting properly rather than.
Well, I think
shots he played last season.
I think whichever way around it is, we've definitely got options. We could also here's another curveball. Lewis Gregory, if he's going to be reducing his bowling workload,
opening the batting. Well, he has. I mean, that is not daft, because he has got a very, very well-honed technique. He's technically as correct a batsman as we've got in Somerset. He's obviously very well coached as a youngster. his bat always looks a couple of inches broader than anybody else's because it always comes down so straight when he's playing in red ball cricket. But I think that would be asking a bit much, unless he can't bowl at all, which would be very, very sad. But I don't think we need to be relying too much on Lewis Gregory's bowling this season, given the strain that his body was put under from all the bowling he had to do in September last year. And he did it brilliantly, but he was in bits by the end.
Managed it to perfection. Managed it. Was it 2 overs he bowled in that Surrey game? Didn't bowl much in the Durham game before, and then
just about all he could bowl.
And then rocked up and went bang bang with Ollie Pope and Jamie Smith in the semi-final.
Fantastic.
Great stuff. Speaking of fit bowlers, what's your gut feeling with Matt Henry? So he missed the Champions Trophy final. Didn't India do well? Didn't India do well to win that Champions Trophy?
He was nearly fit enough to play in the final. So it isn't. It can't be anything too serious. You wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, I expect he'll be all right as well.
Yeah.
Didn't India do well to win that Champions Trophy? God, what against all odds? Yeah. Honestly, sometimes the traffic, it took them 8 or 9 minutes to get from their hotel to the ground every day. It was hell on earth. A real.
You do feel sorry for New Zealand, though, don't they? I mean, I
know everybody's second
so
team.
Much, they overperformed time after. Yeah. They were so unlucky in 2019. And not to win that, and Anyway, well, I thought New Zealand put up a very, very, very good fight, and in the end, it was a decent game of cricket.
And hopefully, Matt Henry will be lifting some silverware in 2025, which, as you well know, is the club's 150th anniversary. I spoke to Richard Bryce today. He was on the train. He's off to Dubai on his Ollie Bobs before the season starts. So I've got a couple of events to let you know about. The first one, of course, is the dinner, which is happening on Friday, the 28th of March. That's in the county room in the Colin Atkinson Pavilion. It's the launch event for the 150th anniversary celebrations. Somerset legends, past and present, will be in attendance, as will I. Gibbo, Steve, are you popping along to that one?
No, afraid not.
No, can't. I'm away in South Wales playing golf.
Oh, very nice. Whereabouts? My dad plays a lot of golf in South Wales. Mellis is where he lives.
Royal Porthcawl. And Ashburnham.
Very nice. Very nice indeed. Well, I'll be there. I'm going to have a few jars. And of course, that is coincides with Somerset's pre-season friendly against the Gloucesters. If you can have a friendly, of course, against the Gloucesters, the 28th, 29th and 30th of March, that one is. 30th of March is Mother's Day, just to remind you in case you make erroneous plans to attend. And what else is going on? On the 25th of April, there is going to be an evening with Andy Caddick in the 1875 Club. 18th of August, the Gentlemen of Devon will be playing the Gentlemen of Somerset, recreating that famous game which took place on the 18th of August, 1875 at Sidmouth, after which Somerset County Cricket Club was formed. What else have we got? There's plenty of 150th anniversary memorabilia available in the club shop and online, and there will be evenings with Marcus Gothic and Joss Butler to come. Details on those are, of course, TBC.
And there's also the 150th anniversary book, brilliantly edited by Richard Walsh and featuring a piece by yours truly about the early years of Somerset County Cricket Club.
I did. I got it. I'm not going to lie. For 25 quid, it's like A5. I was expecting it to be a big sort of coffee table, but it's the same sort of amount of pages of writing in there. It's just a little bit smaller than I thought it would be. But a great read. Yeah, you're right, Rick Gibbo. Absolutely great read, nonetheless. And I think they're still available from the club shop and online as well. What else has gone on? The players, as we speak, are either at Heathrow Airport on the coach or on the air, off on their pre-season 2 weeks in Abu Dhabi. Nice work if you can get it.
One thing you haven't mentioned, Sheps, is Tom Banton's call up for England.
Oh yes,
well deserved.
Well deserved indeed. He played the one game, didn't he? Got 30 odd, scored.
Well, no, he didn't get a game at all. Not in
he did in the one day series.
In the one day series,
but not in the Champions.
I
was really disappointed that after England had been eliminated, that they didn't give him a game in the last match.
Yes, that is pretty shithouse to not do that. Well, they didn't do that with
especially as Jamie Smith, who went in at number 3, which is presumably where Tom Banton would have batted, because that's where he batted in the previous game. Jamie Smith didn't get any, got bugger all, and it would just, I thought that was. And they didn't give Gus Atkinson a bowl. Didn't bring him back either. They just kept to the same bunch. And no, but I was very pleased for Tom, because he's been a bit in the wilderness since his big breakthrough back in 2019 and 2020 and so on. And he well deserved his recall to England colours based on his performances for us last season and in the franchises during the winter as well.
Do we think he's going to play much for England over the summer?
I doubt it.
No.
It feels like they're going to have a
sadly no.
Reset. They don't play much one-day cricket this summer, do they? They've got 3 games, something like that. It's not a lot.
No.
Because now we're building up to the G20 World Cup, and obviously there's a lot of Test cricket played in India, and then the Ashes in the winter.
But it's very hard to break into the McCullum England setup. Although Banton ought to have a good advocate in Marcus Trescothick, who's pretty central to the whole thing at the moment. But maybe Marcus's views being coloured by the difficult years in Tom's career. But I thought the fact he was caught, recalled to the colours, shows that he's still very much in the thinking of the England setup, and that's great. And he deserves it.
Yeah, and so some of that bad times was his ascendance into the England side coincided with COVID, and had that pretty unpleasant period where he wasn't playing any cricket, but wasn't really able to function as a human being for a while. So you'd hope that several people who fell into that category would be given a bit of a pass, but. If as you say, Anthony, if he's been thought of enough to be in the squad, okay, yeah, he should have played that last game, absolutely. But he's certainly in their thoughts, and McCullum may just decide to rip the whole thing up and start again. And
could be.
Yeah, it was very strange because the side that they had, it didn't seem like it was an established side that will play every game going forward like it was under Owen Morgan. So there would have been no harm in tucking Banton in there.
No, quite.
All very odd.
Yeah.
But yes, Banton is actually having a rest. He's not on the plane to Abu Dhabi. I think it's him and Will Smeed that aren't going. There was an error in the graphic that the club tweeted out earlier that omitted Finn Hill. So they quickly corrected that and put it back. And I just hope poor old Finn wasn't left in the car park at the Associates County Ground, and they went off without him. But yeah, they are there until the 23rd. They're going to play the Abu Dhabi Super Counties Cup, everyone's favourite T20 tournament. That takes place over this weekend. We are playing the South Asian Cricket Academy at 10:30 a.m. That's UK time on Friday. We're playing Notts at 2:30 on Saturday, and then there's also the playoffs on Sunday. So we're not sure what time we're playing on Sunday. And then there will be a 2-day friendly against either Notts, Essex, or Warwickshire, or the South Asian Cricket Academy. I spoke to Will Martin from the club. He wasn't sure quite who they were playing, but there will be a game out there. So they're going to get some Red Ball cricket as well while they are in Abu Dhabi. What else? Okay, good to see that George Thomas has got a club. He's been snapped up by Sussex. That was rumoured. I think Richard Walsh told me that in September that he was going to Sussex, and then he was released, and now Sussex have signed him. I wonder if this whole Will Smeed thing was kind of been bubbling under since maybe August time last year, when they kind of looked at balancing things and went, well, do we need Smeed and George Thomas and TKC and Goldsworthy potentially all not being in the championship team? I just wonder if that may have been a factor as well.
I don't know. I mean, Jamie Cox gave me the impression it was very much Will Smeed's decision, to turn himself back into an all formats.
Oh no, I think you misunderstood me. I think from the sort of the powers that be looking at the players they've got available and thinking, well, if Will Smeed is now going to be playing red ball cricket, do we need George Thomas? Have we got a batter too many?
No, I don't think Will Smeed playing red ball cricket was in any way likely back at the tail end of last season. I think it's quite recent that he's changed his mind and decided to have a go.
Fair dues. What else has been announced?
I'm very pleased for George Thomas, and looking forward to seeing him at Hove on April the 11th.
Yes. Do you think we'll be straight in their 4-day side for a first-class debut?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Sussex for years, and so what was it? When were they last in Division 1? 2016?
It's been a while.
Something like that. Nearly 10 years.
Certainly haven't been since we've been doing this.
I mean, I've seen them obviously in white ball cricket, but the championship side is very different. So.
Well, they had a pretty storming season last year, didn't they?
Did,
so you'd expect they've got a pretty good settled side there.
I think
it's actually difficult to get into, but we shall see. We've got friendlies against Devon and Cornwall have been announced as well. Cornwall one, as is usual, is just before the Always Look on the Bright Side of Life Metro Bank One Day Cup kicks off. The Devon one is a strange bit of scheduling. Have you seen when that is?
No.
T20 at Exmouth on the, I think it's the 16th of May. We play Hove at Taunton the day after. And then, I'm pretty sure it's the day after. And then we play another championship game after that. And then we have a week off and then we play the Blast. So it seems to me it would have been better to put the real side of Derby on that Wednesday before we kick the Blast off against Surrey rather than that. But anyway, maybe the schedules couldn't align for that. Who knows? But yeah, looking forward to that. Always a good game, and certainly see you down there if you are able to make your way to the Mayor Ground for that one. And I think I have exhausted my agenda.
indeed.
Do we have any other business? Let's pop over to Twitter and see what people have been asking us. Cider and Saint says, with cricket becoming more and more a private school game, what can be done to attract young people of state education to the ground?
Well,
could the club help run clubs at...
What I hope is that some of the nearly 50 million that's going to be going into the recreational game from the sale of the 100 is used to promote and facilitate cricket in state schools.
I deliberately forgot to put that on my agenda because I didn't want to be here till 11:30 discussing the sale of equity in these 100 teams.
But it's a huge amount of money, and I haven't thought about it deeply, but there must surely be scope to underpin school cricket in state schools as opposed to public schools, and just to level up the balance between the two, so that clubs aren't bearing quite so much of the responsibility of bringing on young cricketers in their early years, so they can actually play cricket at state schools as opposed to public schools or private schools. But that 50 million could make a hell of a difference to bringing on young cricketers and the future of English cricket if it's wisely used.
I think one of the major barriers to it is the price of kit, the price of your county training kit and your county playing kit. If you're good enough to make it that far. And I think subsidising that is going to be a massive thing if they choose to do it like that. It just doesn't need to go into what it shouldn't do and mustn't be allowed to happen is for it to go into the back pockets of players and administrators through inflated salaries, which is what I'm very, very worried about.
Well, they're not allowed to spend it on that. They've got to spend it on either paying down debt or capital investment. They're not allowed to spend them. This is counties now. The recreational money is quite separate. 10% of the 49%, which is around about getting on for 500 million. So 10% of that is, what was it, 950 million in total. So 49% is
472,
70, something like that. The accountant. And so that's 10% of that 472 goes to recreational cricket, and that's as well as all of the money going to the counties. And that's a big chunk of money, and if it's used wisely, it could make a real difference. And let's hope it is used wisely. And whatever the rights and wrongs of the 100, there's no doubt that the sale of the 100 has been a huge success, and Somerset will be better off to the tune of, I haven't worked it, best part of 30 million quid. And they can spend it on, for example, knocking down the Botham stand and building something better in its place. And that would be perfect.
The Roelof and the Merwe stand, the proper one.
With a proper media centre, which is big enough.
I was getting there.
Didn't see that one coming.
Oh, don't stop moaning. They got rid of the bus show. You've got a lovely commentary box now. Your words were, "This is the best view of any commentary box in the entire country."
It is. It is.
I want to know. All right, we're going to have to talk about the 100 now for 5 minutes before Steve goes off and has his tea. What have you bought?
Yeah, I'm going to say goodbye, guys. Sorry, I've got to go.
All right. No worries, Steve. Good to see you, mate.
See you soon, guys. Bye.
What have you bought if you've just bought your share in a 100 team? You've got no ground. You've got no players. You've got a competition that the ECB could just knock on the head at any time. And then if you do decide to go it alone, what agency have you got to set that going without say-so of the ECB who run cricket in this country?
Well, I don't really understand the logic of it. I think a lot of it is just vanity. It's particularly for these, American tech people who bought it. They just, just want to be associated with something high profile, and I think it'll do them good. They got plenty of money to spend. The IPL franchises, they seem to be on a mission to buy up as much franchise cricket around the world as they possibly can.
It just seems,
I think there's a lot of vanity involved in it, and not very much financial logic. I certainly can't see the financial logic in it. But the bottom line is, it's a very large amount of money being injected into domestic English cricket. And Somerset are pretty well set up. They've been well run for a number of years, but just up the road at Gloucestershire, they've been in dire straits. You look across to Leicestershire and Northants and Derbyshire, it could be an absolute lifeline. And I think it will, ironically, for all of those people who's great county cricket supporters who absolutely loathe and detest the 100, it's going to be the saving of quite a few county cricket clubs, which otherwise would have gone to the wall, will probably have merged. The Brian Rose vision of Northants and Leicestershire merging, for example, and Derbyshire being swallowed up by Notts and all the rest of it, and you end up, this is Andrew Strauss as well, with sort of, instead of 18 counties, you end up with 8. But actually all of this has made that vastly less likely, because the weakest brethren amongst the county clubs have now got loads of money and can carry on. So
it would be absolutely hilarious if they just now scrap the 100. They say you bought your teams, You've given us all this money. Go off and do something else with them. Oh, you got no ground. You got no players.
They've probably been given some guarantees about that.
Well, I suppose so. But it'd be hilarious if they didn't.
Anyway, that's the world we live in.
That's the world we live in. I've got nothing else, Gibbo. Any other business from yourself?
No, looking forward to the season, provided provided the BBC finally tell me whether or not I'm going to be gainfully employed this summer or not. But we live in.
Well, I'm sure you will be, and I'm sure there'll be a huge protest if the ECB, who are now, as we've discussed for the last 10 minutes, so flush with cash, they don't know what to spend it on. So I expect you will not only be re-engaged, Gibbo, but re-engaged at a vastly inflated salary, which you definitely deserve. Right, I'm off to pack now. Got to off to Cheltenham races for the next 4 days.
Right, have a good time.
Yeah, betting down with Dick Oliver down at the bottom end of the Guinness Village. So if you're there, do come and say hello, and I will guarantee to give any always look on the bright side of life listeners a guaranteed price boost on the board odds. There we go. How's that for a Cheltenham offer? Good stuff. Right, nothing else from me. Nothing else from yourself, Gibbo. Steve's already gone to have his tea. I go to pack, and we'll catch up with you probably after the Gloucestershire pre-season game, and we'll give the season our full preview if you don't feel we've done enough already. Cheers, Gibbo. See you in a couple of weeks. Ta-ra.
Yeah. Bye.